let's paint some Spidey head sculpts.
MAFEX Spider-Man. Great figures, but they suffer from the same thing that majority of MAFEX figures suffer from: average head sculpts. And pretty much every comic Spider-Man has the same weird egg-shaped head, and it's just a soft representation of the source material. For instance, these MAFEX Spider-Mans are supposed to represent McFarlane's art style, and I don't really think it nails it. It gets close, but not really. So today we're painting custom head sculpts for the MAFEX figures. Sounds simple enough, but there's a catch. Spider-Man's mask is red, right? That's easy, no problem.
Wrong!
Except every single Spider-Man figure is a different shade of red, to the point where it becomes almost nauseating. But I'm going to show you how to color match not only the 075 MAFEX Spider-Man, but also the 185 Spider-Man. Here's a list of the paints we're going to be using today. Starting with the 075, we're going to be using Evil Sunz Scarlet by Citadel. Then we're going to be using Vermilion by Valier. Also speaking of VA, we're going to be using Scarlet. Not Evil Sunz Scarlet, just Scarlet. Now for the 185, we're going to be using Bold Pyro Red by Pro Acrylic. We're also going to be using Warm Yellow by Pro Acrylic. For the web lines, we're going to experiment by switching between Pro Acrylic Coal Black and this black ink by Daler Rowley. Rowley? Anyways, it's black ink. For the whites of the lenses, I wanted to try a different paint for each figure. So for the 075, Bright Warm Gray. For the 185, Bold Titanium White. Both of these paints are by Pro Acrylic. Now that we've gone over the paints for both the 075 and the 185, we can definitely jump into things.
I actually classify Spider-Man head sculpts as some of the harder head sculpts to paint. There is variation between the 075 MAFEX and the 185 MAFEX. Tell this one is a lot darker in color, this one's a lot brighter, it has some oranges in there, this one has more of like a pinkish hue to it as opposed to this, and it looks dirtier. In the reds, as you can see, there's some shading in there. We're going to see if we can achieve that as well, because I did paint this one as kind of a test, and it's a match. It's just it looks too clean. It looks too clean. So we have one head sculpt for each. So this is the 185 that we're trying to match, and this is the 075 that we're trying to match. Let's jump into it. Okay, we have our wet palette set up. If you don't have one of these, I recommend getting one, or you can make one at home. That might be a tutorial for another day. Wet palettes, basically what they do, they keep your paints smooth for longer. Basically keep them wet for longer periods of time, allowing them to go on smoothly and not chunky or chalky or anything like that. We're going to start with our Citadel Evil Sunz Scarlet. 1 dab and 2 dab. And then we are going to take our Scarlet by the... and we're going to just do 1 little drop of this.
Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! SpongeBob, careful! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob! Careful, SpongeBob!
What's annoying about color matching that when you don't have the web lines on there, the red is very overpowering. So it's kind of hard to tell when you're right on the money or when you have strayed too far from the path. So I think we need to go just a little bit duller. Mix some more of the Evil Sunz Scarlet in there. I feel like that would dull it out a little bit.
I'm fast as fuck, boy!
Honestly, that's pretty spot on.
Nice.
In person, it looks pretty spot on. I feel like once the web lines are on there, it will look really clean. Is our mixture. So what we're going to do is go in with a fatter brush, and we're going to just start layering that paint on. Color matching is one of the biggest things that I feel is lacking a ton of content. Like, you really have to dig. You have to dig on Reddit, you have to dig in Instagram comment sections, Facebook, things like that. It's like luck of the draw. So I was like, you know what? Why gatekeep these different recipes? But we're gonna go in with a super thin liner brush. This is a 20-0 liner brush. yeah, this is what I'm gonna do for the web line. Already f***ed up. Already f***ed up. Great.
Oh no!
I can paint really good eyes. I can do really good skin tones. But when it comes to fine lines, you don't want to have a ton of paint on your brush, because the more paint you have, think about it as like water spilling over a glass, right? The edge of a glass. The more paint you have on the edge of your brush, the more there's likely to tip over the side. It's getting that muddy effect, which is kind of nice. It's darkening, similar to how the 075 figure looked. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if this is actually how they did it. It was just some guy, because this was like the first Spider-Man from MAFEX, so it was probably just some guy like painting it, and he's like, I keep messing up the lights! And then so he just like smudged it, and he's like, oh no, he's just been really out there fighting crime, you know how Spidey is.
What the hell are you talking about?
And then little does anybody know on the MAFEX team that it was just some guy about ready to throw the figure at a wall because he kept messing up the web lines.
Okay, let's fast forward to where I messed up. I was trying to add more of that smudginess look. Ended up using too much of a black wash.
Oh no!
In my own words, I say it looks like he went through a forest fire. Or a house fire, because he's not in the middle of nowhere. But that being said, we can still save this. We use that vermilion that we talked about in the beginning of the video, and this will add that pink look. So we add a little bit of that to our original mixture, and we'll slowly dry brush this on, and it will bring back that brightness while still retaining that smudginess look underneath the surface. Finally, we finished the hard stuff, which is color matching the red. Now it's the easy stuff, which is just finishing the lenses. My recommendation is start with the white of the lenses, then the black outline. The reason why I do it in this order is because it's always easier to go over a white paint mistake with black paint than it is to go over a black paint mistake with white paint, if that makes sense. Once you're all done, your sculpt should look something like this. And since I showed you my setbacks, you shouldn't have the same problem, right? Right. Then we just replicate that for the McFarlane head sculpt. I'm not going to show you the whole process because that would be super tedious, but let's just say it went a lot smoother. 1, because I didn't screw up with the wash, and 2, I knew the proper paint mixture, so it went a lot smoother because I was able to replicate it super easy. And to be honest, I think the McFarlane head sculpt turned out even better than the Bagley. Maybe because I'm a little biased, but I think this McFarlane looks like factory made. Also, I just really like this McFarlane style head sculpt. But we can't celebrate just yet because we have one more Spider-Man to color match.
No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, before you freak out, this one is a lot simpler. We're not using washes, we're not adding special third colors halfway through the process. It's just 2 colors. First color is Bold Pyro Red by Pro Acrylic. This makes up about 75% of the color match. You can mess around with that ratio a little bit, whatever looks best to you. Something to remember is that that's a huge part of color matching, is what looks right to you. It's all about your eye, catching subtle hints and tones within the colors. When it comes to reds, I'm terrible with them. But with blues and greens, I'm great. Sometimes even yellows. Everybody has weak points is what I'm trying to say. Leave me alone. Thing with these 185s is that we're doing a lot of the same process that we did on the 075, except a lot less steps. But to be honest, it's probably a good thing that we started off with the harder sculpts because now these are going to be an absolute breeze. Everything you learned on the 075s is still true here. Start off with your red tones, making sure to compare it with the 185 figure to make sure that you're getting all the subtleties correct. I don't know about you, but for me, if something's off, it really bugs me. So I really take my time on this step. Just because it's 2 colors doesn't mean you can't still make mistakes. This time for the web lines, instead of black paint, we're going to be using black ink. The difference between inks and paint is that inks sink into the layers instead of sitting on top like paint does. What's good about this is that there's a transparency to ink. So even though you get really rich colors, you can still see the colors underneath it. Inks are also super thin, so this is a double-edged sword. With thin paints, you can get more paint or more ink on the brush, so be careful with this. Really make sure that you get as much ink off the brush as possible before going to the actual model. Reason why is because, again, remember that glass metaphor that I used. More ink or paint you have on the brush, the more it'll likely flow over the edges. And with the 185, we don't want that muddy look of the 075. So let's stay away from paint bleed, or ink bleed in this case. I finally finished painting all of the web lines, but I wanted to try something. All of these are printed in vanilla resin, so I wanted to see if I could just leave the vanilla color of the resin for the eyes. Look at that. One less step to do. Painting the lenses. Okay, like I mentioned before, we're not going to be painting the lenses, but I think this is important. Is adding an outline to the black of the lenses and the interior of the lenses. This really defines them, gives definition and layers to it. Without it, it looks like Spidey's missing something. So your Spidey sculpts will look that much better when you do this. It's such a simple step, but honestly, it makes that much of a difference.
Wow, it's very nice.
And boom, just like that, we are done with this McFarlane style 185. I think it turned out really nice. I really like that vanilla resin look on the lenses. That isn't just me being lazy. No, I'm being completely serious. With the brighter colors of the 185 mixed with the soft tones of that vanilla resin, it looks really comic booky. But maybe that's just me. What's your opinion? I also painted the Bagley sculpt in the same tone, but instead of leaving the lenses vanilla, I painted them in bold titanium white. You can really tell the difference between the two. Now that you watch me meticulously color match each sculpt to the respective figure, you can really see the differences between the two in color. Again, I'm biased towards McFarlane, but which sculpt is your favorite? The Bagley or the McFarlane? And here's a bonus question for you. Which color scheme do you prefer? The duller look of the 075 or the brighter color scheme of the 185? Let me know your answers in the comments below. Also, I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, decent, now I know how to paint them, but I don't have any Spider-Man head sculpts. Well, you're in luck. These head sculpts are available on both DecentCustomsWorkshop.com as well as my new Etsy shop. I have blank options available, so if you want to try and do it yourself, you can. I'll also have a limited quantity of painted head sculpts for both the 075 and the 185 in both McFarlane and Bagley. Both my Etsy shop and my website are linked in the description below, so make sure to check it out after the video. This type of video is a lot of fun to make, so it made me wonder, what should I color match next? MAFEX Hush Batman or the MAFEX Venom? Let me know in the comments below what you want to see next. Well, there it is. We fixed the mediocre stock head sculpts with our very own custom head sculpts. We even learned how to color match them. Not too bad if I don't say so myself. If I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. Color matching takes time. Spider-Man is a difficult sculpt to paint, but throughout this video, I've tried to showcase tips and tricks as well as articulate how I approach projects like this. Even though it's a difficult one, I definitely think that you guys are more than capable of doing this all on your own. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and if you haven't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really means a lot. Also, if you want to keep up to date with all the projects I'm working on, make sure to give me a follow on Instagram at DecentCustoms. This has been a lot of fun, guys. I'll see you next time.